Okay, thank you. Welcome tonight to the Saratoga Springs Thursday, August 14th, 2025 Planning Commission. We'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Hill has agreed to lead us in that tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Hill. And for roll call tonight, we have Commissioner Karn, Commissioner Mangum, and Commissioner Miles are excused for tonight. And we'll now go ahead with public input. Time for public input is limited to no more than 15 minutes total. This time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed in the public hearing on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll now close public input, and we'll now go to public hearings. Item 1 tonight is amendments to Title 19 Land Development Code of the City of Saratoga Springs, Chapter 19.02. Definitions, Chapters 19.04, Establishment of Land Use Zones and Official Map, and Chapter 19.13, Development Review Process, Citywide City Initiated. Senior Planner Jelen will be presenting. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman and Commissioners. As stated, this is a code amendment. This was part of the recent state legislation, that legislative session that was held back in March. And so we've been updating this, getting this code amendment ready for you guys. And I can kind of go through this. I have it here listed, kind of an overview of what the updates that we're making, as well as the code sections themselves that will be added to the code. So the first part of this was to Chapter 1902, the definitions. We're adopting several definitions that were adopted at the state level, related to classification requests for incoming businesses into the city, and then new or unlisted business uses. To 1904, we added a section that just defines and points applicants to the section of code where those processes are outlined, which is in Chapter 1913. We'll go ahead and go through that. But as stated, there are two new processes. One, a classification request for businesses coming into the city, and then new or unlisted uses and how those get processed within the city. And then as part of that, this establishes City Council as the land use authority for both of those applications, and further outlines the appeal process if somebody disagrees with any determination that is made by the City Council. So here's that definition section. Like I said, classification requests, that's when a business is coming in and would like to be classified under an existing use. A process is outlined in 1913, as I stated, and the second of that is a new or unlisted business that doesn't fall under an existing definition for a business that we have currently in our code, and how they go about that process. So here's that language in 1904, like I said, that kind of points to 1913. Here's the language that we're adding in 1913. This is the table that outlines how these applications go through the process, public hearing that will be required at Planning Commission when they come in, when those applications come in, and then ultimately go to City Council. So here's that classification request language. As I stated, this at its most simplest form is a determination of a business coming in that would like to be classified under an existing definition. And then this one, I believe, is the new or unlisted business use application, and outlines what that process is, what's required in the application, and then outlines that the City Council is the authority on that. And so there's that language that is related to that application process, and there's the appeal process if they disagree with the determination. So with that, I can stand for any questions that you guys have. Yeah.
Okay, first we'll go ahead and open for public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and Commissioner Hill.
David or Sarah, this is because of Senate Bill 179, correct?
Correct.
So we need to conform to that, so it happens. But so often, things that happen at the state level may not be so good at the local level. And I know in my reading, I saw that the staff says that it fits our charter and it fits all the things that we're trying to do. But the question that I have, is this really in line with how we've been doing and how we want to do business?
Yeah, so
And I, this is public, but, I've seen that happen so often that the state says, this is best for you. And for many cities it is, but the cities that really have a good handle on growing business and the things that they're doing, sometimes this goes sideways. And I don't know if it's a fair question, so if you don't want to answer, but I will ask the question.
no, I can answer that. It's fairly similar already to what we do, especially when it comes to a new business that's coming in. We determine a parking requirement that they need to go by. We determine, what zones are appropriate for that use. This just outlines, on paper what the process will be going forward. Establishes that the city council has to be the land use authority in these cases. And so some of those
Which
things,
is a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
It's local and, yeah.
Yeah. So it provides more clarity to the process for the user, but yeah, it was all defined at the state level that this is essentially what we needed to do, and so.
Well, as I read it, it was very understandable what was transpiring, but sometimes, sometimes I have more confidence locally than I do at the state level because we know our community, we know how we want to grow, we know what our capacities are, so that's why I asked the question, so thank
And
you.
I would say we were already doing it this way. This just puts it into a formal language. So the first part, if somebody came in, we would find something similar in the code. If there wasn't anything similar, we would have them apply for a code amendment. So this is really similar to what we're already doing.
Okay.
Just codifying everything.
Okay.
But we're not opposed to this. It's not going to create any extra work or problems.
Probably the hardest thing was to get it to this point, right?
And I don't know at the state level why they had a need to put it in the code. We already do this, maybe other cities don't.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Wilden.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation here. And as I was looking through this, I want to make sure I understand this, that if someone comes in with a business that is unique, that we haven't had a business like that before, and they can't seem to squeeze it in under what it is closest to, then the next step would be to come to the city council and say, hey, we think it ought to go under this. And the city council may say yeah, or they may say no, and then they go and they have to start a new application process that then they have to come back to the city council to say, does this work? And then the city council has to approve that to move forward. Do I have that right?
That is correct, yeah.
So I'm just kind of throwing some thoughts here. This seems to be very business unfriendly and likely to drive some businesses to go to a neighboring community rather than hassle with us as a city. Not that we want to just open our arms to any type of business, but this whole process doesn't seem to be fair to other businesses or business friendly. Will delay businesses a couple months to get through. We also have a very capable staff that can clearly make that decision, and it doesn't need to go and waste the time of a city council to make a decision, oh, it goes here or it goes here. So it's not really a good practice for city council, nor is it a really good practice for the staff to have to refer that to the city council. So I'm just throwing that at you.
Well,
I think
Doug,
this is a poor plan.
I think there's one other step in it because the recommendation has to go to the planning commission before it goes to be approved by the city council. Is that correct?
Really?
I think in the table it showed the planning commission has to make a recommendation.
Okay, yeah, I'm very opposed to such a long process for a business who clearly happens to not line up perfectly has to go through to get approval. That's very
The one thing, though, is my understanding is that every city has to adopt this Senate Bill 179, so every city's going to be in the same light as we are.
I think you're right, except the city council does not have to be the land use authority in this situation. I think we're choosing to have them to be the land use authority in the situation. It could be a member of the staff, or it could be someone else that could make that determination on which direction to go, is my understanding.
Let's hear from our city attorney really quick, if that's okay.
Yeah, so those are interesting points. I think there's a couple of ways to address that. I think one is that the planning group has done a great job having tons of definitions, right? We were trying to think of a business that might come in and not fit somewhere. So I think that's step one. And then step two is the SB 179 and the language. We were trying to make it work so that the planning director could be the approving authority for a classification request. But later in the language that the state included in, and this may have been an oversight or just they didn't think the process all the way through, I'm not really sure. But it says that that determination still has to be passed on by the legislative body of the city. So essentially what it would look like is Sarah would make the determination, and then if she said no, council would then have to be the body that still lets them know that it was declined. So it's kind of an interesting step is how it was drafted, and it didn't make sense for, Sarah to be there denying it or approving it, and then council still be responsible for informing them. And that's why we had to end up falling in line with how it's drafted today.
Okay, so the direction from the state was we're following the alignment with what the state is.
Correct.
The state has proposed a flawed process then.
Some might say that.
Okay, thank you. No, I appreciate that. Is there any other alternative to throw the city council dealing with something that should be taken care of by staff?
I think as staff, we're constantly trying to evaluate our definitions and trying to think about what makes sense and trying to accommodate different uses. It's what we recently went through with athletic coaching, bounce houses. We're constantly trying to look at uses and evaluate how they fit within the city and trying to be preemptive about that. And so, to Rulin's point, we were trying to bounce off uses that could come into the city that wouldn't fit under a current definition. And really there weren't any that we could come up with. And that's something that staff is trying to look at and trying to be proactive about to the best of our ability. And I think in most cases, when one of these come in, we're able to look at it and say, oh, this use makes sense under an existing definition without having to go through that formal classification request. And so there'll be some back and forth in that regard, but I think with what we have with code, we try and work with it within what we have and make that work, so.
So you're doing everything you can, it sounds like, to try to prevent them to have to go through this process, it sounds like.
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'm glad we got you busy tonight.
I'm wondering if there was any specific businesses on like the state level that we might have, that maybe triggered this code to be coming in that we know about.
I don't have the
None
background.
that I'm aware of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that process does seem laborious, but I did also look through the approved businesses and all of that and read through that, and I went through that same process of thinking about what are some businesses that would need to apply for this, and I also could not think of any, and I mean, maybe I'm just not very creative. But it seems like our city does have a pretty broad amount of just information on businesses that we do accept. And so, yeah, I'd say I'm pretty comfortable after looking through that business section as well, though. So with that said, let's go ahead and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I move that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation for approval of the proposed code amendments to chapters 19.02, 19.04, and 1913 with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Okay, and we have a motion from Commissioner Mann. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Any questions on the motion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. We'll now move to our next
Thank
business. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Great job.
We'll now move to our next business item. Item number 1, approval of minutes for July 31st, 2025. I will entertain a motion on that.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve the minutes of the July 31st, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any question on that motion? Sorry, and that motion was made by Commissioner Hill and seconded by Commissioner Weldon. And all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes as well. We'll go ahead and move to reports. Is any commissioner comments tonight?
I've got just two things. Just to remind everyone that next Tuesday at noon, the APA of Utah program for the month is going to zero in on our downtown city. And Doug is going to be making that presentation along with Ryan Wallace from MTHM, who is our consultant. And so it'll be a whole hour Zoom. And if you're able just to eat lunch and watch it, I think it'll bring you up to date on the downtown. And Doug may even let us know that we're struggling a little bit with the developer, but bring us up to date on that. So again, and I'll send that link out to each of you just so that you'll have it, because I think we did before. And then the other thing is APA is having their they're having their fall conference. It will be in Salt Lake on October the 9th and 10th, and will be Gateway in Salt Lake City on, I think that's South Temple. And if you have a desire to go, Friday the 10th would be the day to go, because that will have the commissioners' track that'll have 7 classes that day that are just for commissioners. And if you've not been, Salt Lake's pretty close. And so those are the only things that I had.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Hill. And if I can just state, I truly appreciate the time and effort that you put into these meetings and these events that go on, and your ability to keep us informed of that. It's really a great service to the Planning Commission, to myself personally, and to our city. So thank you.
Well, they do a great job, and as staff knows, because they're pretty involved with APA, but good stuff happening there.
Commissioner Hill, I'm really thanking you for that, though. I want to be really clear that I really appreciate the work you put in there, and it does make life easier for the rest of us, so thank you. And we do have awesome staff. Director's report.
The last council meeting was held on August 5th, and it was short intentionally because they also held Night Out Against Crime on that same night. Planning did have a booth there, and code enforcement did, so people were able to come and meet the planners and code enforcement and ask us any questions. Mostly we just, gave bracelets and candy to kids. So the break site plan amendment was approved on that night. That was the only planning item we had. And then just as far as a couple updates, you all heard that the Mountain View corridor is now open. A few things, they're still wrapping up, but that's open, the widening they did between SR 73 and Pony. And then the lake trail improvements through the Saratoga Springs development that have been on hold for a while, those will be starting up again. So that's good news. And then this isn't a planning item, but Food Truck Mondays will go through Labor Day, so.
Okay, thank you. Any need for a closed session tonight?
Nope.
All right, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
Awesome.